Hey, all you happy lost souls. If you're new to the channel, thanks for finding it. Please hit the bell icon, hit subscribe. Um, my channel is pretty much about geology, artifacts, the mysteries of ancient North American archaeology, the stuff past 12,000, 13,000 years ago, the stuff that's unexplored and slowly becoming more recognized as, yeah, there was people older than the Clovis. And one of these people, or groups of people, may have been Salutian or seal hunters that came over the Atlantic um, and found their way here. And then the even older stuff that's more Neanderthal-like, that's a whole different story. But what I want to focus on mainly today is there's a couple big announcements. I am building a website. It's getting there. I will put a link up. You can't purchase anything yet, but there's going to be a lot of cool one-of-a-kind items. There's going to be some gemstones in there from some of these alluvium deposits and stuff that aren't artifact related. But again, in southeastern PA, in a few of these streams, these tributaries to the Delaware and feeder streams to the Schuylkill, run through some crazy geological zones. And one of these cultures that expresses a lot of their stuff in geometric shapes like diamonds, squares, circles, even their spearheads and things. And right here, here's some more, gemstone artifacts. And that's what we're going to get to. This culture knew what they were doing when it came to stone, an advanced understanding. And this stuff's prior to the Clovis culture. And I believe the Clovis culture stumbled upon some of these quarry sites and recycled some of the stone, but also didn't know how to work with some of the material. Because a lot of what you see here, everything right out here, except for a few of the stones, are all corundum, i.e. sapphire, ruby, pretty much anything that's not considered a red, or they call it pigeon blood red color, is not a ruby and gets put into the sapphire category. Chemically, structurally, minerally, they're minerally, that was a word, but they're the same. They're all aluminum oxide. And the reason we have a lot of corundum in these specific alluvium deposits and quarry sites is because of where these creeks run. You have a super, super large geological vein of soapstones, silicates. You get your silicate type high-grade soapstones and alabasters and gypsum and quartz and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a pocket where it runs into a plate that is all volcanic, mesomorphic, in your areas of the mantle that got pushed up, exposed, melted. Well, these areas are flowing through another crazy vein geologically of schist and your shale deposits, and these have a ton of aluminum in them. And in the silicate-free zone, rich in aluminum and other trace metals, and where these creeks are flowing underground into these caverns, we start getting all these crystallizations off the aluminum oxide that are forming, called corundums. And corundums are second in hardness only to diamonds. What's fascinating is not that there's corundums there. They're good for me. Some of them are very valuable, and I'll be selling some of these, like I said, on that website. And the cool thing about that is all of the money raised by these items is going back into the research of this, and also donated into preserving and cleaning up our watersheds and our water, which is our lifeline, which we don't pay enough attention to. Now, this culture obviously was working with a lot of yellow sapphire, shaping it into tools that also take on the image of an animal. You've got this pressure tool here. This could have even been a pick. This could have been stuck into like a carved out hole into a shaft and then tied off and used as a great hammer, because this stuff is so durable and hard. And that's really what it comes down to. The mystery is who was able to work with this stuff. I mean, look at how beautifully done this pressure flaking or this knife is. You got this horse head or this animal profile inlaid with the eye. It's also the grip and for the pressure and the leverage, and it's pretty much symmetrical on both sides. Now this yellow sapphire, this is actually the crystal cleavage, and they've actually worked at flattening those layers out, because the way corundums form, they either form these thin sheets or these really blocky formations. Like this is a perfect example of a corundum. This is a clear white sapphire with some starring and banding, but it's still got that barrel square shape. It hasn't been polished or tumbled around in the creek long enough to get broken. What ends up happening to a lot of the corundums, like you'll see that these color change when light hits them, and they're incandescent. They have color changing chameleon like properties. Look at that beautiful pinkish pale clear one right there, and you can really see the color change that occurs when the light gets on them. And some of the blue ones, like this dark blue, this will turn like a purple when the light gets on it. So you really get these color changing properties to them. And then if you use different light like UV, or this one get really purple when the light is on it because there's a lot of vanadium in it. Look at these crazy one that we found recently. We call this the cotton candy or world on fire sapphire color here. This crazy pale blue with this bright pink running through it. And you can still see how it tries to keep those helix, five-sided, pointed, six-sided shapes. Like you get this octagon like stop sign shape. That's the formation of the actual crystal. A lot of blue sapphire, color changing sapphire. And that has a star. There's starring in this one in the middle there. When you get these corundums and the light hit them, you can really see the blues, and these are matrices where you've got it running through other rock, which is really rare. And you get into your more reds, your yellows, your multi-tone. Here's another one. It's keeping that shape of, and you can see the geological shape. It's kind of growing. And the crystal is a big ruby. You get this crazy canary yellow sapphire. Really, it takes on this bright yellow. It'll be clear when there's a backlight behind it. And this still kept its corundum shape. And you see a giant piece of it here. You would think that this is a tool, but this is just a giant piece of yellow sapphire. And you can see that corundum shape that it's trying to maintain. 1, 2, got a whole side there, the actual crystal. But is a massive piece of canary yellow sapphire. And you get a massive piece of brown, more of a browner piece of sapphire aluminum oxide called orange or yellow. But this here is a saw. It's a corundum that was perfectly shaped into a saw. It still has teeth on it. This could have been used to cut other stone. It could have been used to cut wood. Thing is, once you made a sapphire tool, it would be extremely hard to make one. But if you had one and made one, it would pretty much last forever and be superior to all their materials. It would be like using high carbon steel against like bronze in a fight. You would just bend the bronze swords in half with that, or cut them in half with it. So somebody knew how to work with this corundum. And they were making things like drill bits out of it. Here's a crazy drill bit. And this may be marble and not corundum, but I really think it's a white corundum because you could see the red crust running around it. But this is a drill bit. You could see where it's fluted here, and then on the sides. And it was locked into something, and it was used as a rotary tool or a pick, or, was hammered into something to split it, but it looks more like a drill to me, a crazy drill bit out of sapphire. It is not, it's crazy. And it's still extremely sharp in that drill bit end. You can say they're finger grips, but I don't think, you could go through other stone with this pretty easily. With some sand, and the turtle. And you can see here that this is the cleavage of the sapphire. Those little teeth, those little points is actually the crystal formations of the yellow sapphire. And you got some red in here being exposed to chromate. But you could see how they use that to their advantage when shaping this turtle head. And this is a cutter. This is both sharp on both ends here, inside of here. So this would be great at cutting rope. It could be used for straightening shafts, more of like a scissor action. And it's endowed with the powers of the alligator snapping turtle, which is a native inhabitant of the one creek that a lot of this stuff comes from. And those things have been around for 90 million years. The heretical line of the alligator snapper in the North American waterways, and you could see the actual teething of the sapphire, and they're just using that to their advantage. And with sapphire, an easy way to really tell, some of this I polish down with a palm sander just to make sure it's sapphire, and we run it across tile to make sure it doesn't leave a mark and hardness test them. None of these are certified by the IGA. I don't have the money right now, but some of the more valuable ones I have to, because I can't just undersell them for way too much. But you get this beautiful orange, yellowish, red sapphire. And if we can get the camera to stop bugging out here a little bit, and we zoom in right there, you can see those, you see that beading, there's pebbling, it almost looks like there's like writing or little pock marks on the surface. Get to autofocus again. And yeah, you could see that this was once a square or a diamond shape, but it got broken off in the creek, polished down, but it still is so hard. It's got all this surface cleavage and pitting. And you can see that right into there, even with it polished. You get that pitting on all these sapphires and these corundums. Even when they're polished, you'll get the pitting, and it looks like little squiggly writing in there, like hieroglyphs. Unless you really, really file it down. And if you look at the stuff really closely, especially the stuff that's in its square shape still, you'll get these little crisscross marks all in it like a tic-tac-toe in different directions. You can kind of see it as a really rough piece of corundum. This, obviously, even though it's the same material as a beautiful sapphire, this got the short end of the stick, and it's dull, brown, ugly aluminum oxide. The least valuable, of them all. So if we let it focus right here, you could see. See here, we can focus it better. But you can see the lines running through it. And all this stuff will luster. So like the sapphire, even this brown stuff, it'll luster, it'll get shiny when polished with like Scotch Brite, this green stuff. But you can see how square, how it's kept that perfect geological formation of that corundum shape. We can get it here. And this crazy one that kept its matrix, but you got like red on one side where it was exposed to chromate, blue on the other. And this also has these color changing properties. That blue really will get blue if you get certain light on it. And you look at these things from different angles. They'll get all different colors in them. But want to know who was using it, who was shaping it, who had that knowledge and that ability. And we could see a big old piece of yellow sapphire here that has been worked. It's been heated. It's been, drilled through. It's been pockmarked, heated. Here's another piece. Looks like they scorched it for a really, really long time on one side where it's pitched from use, but I don't think so. I think maybe when they saw this stuff, because of the way it looks and its color, they thought, hey, maybe this is flint. And then when they started working with it, and you can really see the layering of the sapphiring. You see these little sheets that starts to form and grow outwards. These little sheets. Almost looks like shell forming layers and layers, and that's where little lines and striations come in. If you get the stuff on a palm sander and you use like a regular medium or medium coarse sandpaper, it'll shred right through quartz and it'll get a smell similar to like gunpowder or a cap. If you use that same kind of grinding paper on this stuff, it won't do anything. It'll shine it slightly. In fact, most of all of these have been run under the palm sander to get all the dirt, allergy, and gunk off of them real quick. Not the artifacts, no. Things that I deem artifactual. No. I don't know what's going on with all the sapphire stuff. We get these sapphire knives. This one's like very scalpel-like with this yellow sapphire. Scrapers. We get these little razor / scraper side profiles of animals, like turtles again, it looks like. And some of them, if you really look in the littler gravel bars, you start finding littler, like blue sapphires, and they still keep their square corundum shape a lot of times. And they'll really, really fight to maintain that structure. Remember, they can come in any color underneath the rainbow. The clear ones are very valuable. They can be used as diamonds, clear and white sapphire, which is what these are. You can see how clear some of the stuff can get sometimes, but still has that same hardness. And a lot of times you'll find them broken. You see, like, here is a cool, almost a peach color sapphire with that red and that yellow inside. But you can see it was broken and cracked and shattered in between rocks when it got tumbled. But the stuff is so hard, that's usually what happens. Part of it breaks. So instead of getting a nice barrel shape like this one, you get half of it smashed off, and then that eventually gets rounded off. So this brought a broken one piece to show you. And like here's a broken piece that got broken off. Pieces got broken off of it, but it's gotten polished and tumbled in the creek. And you get these brilliant color changes in different light with these ones here. This whitish orange pink color. These ones are very valuable. The stuff can be dull, ugly, or drab, or it can be so beautiful that it gets put into a jewelry. But I want to know who was working with the stuff, who was able to smooth a giant saw blade out of corundum, like a sapphire saw blade. These pressure flaking tools, this is sapphire, and you can hear how hard this stuff is. It's like glass, but it's hard, more durable than glass. And you can get the light behind these. Sometimes you can see like that these are transparent. This stuff is really not opaque. Once you get the light on it, it's just really dirty and unpolished, but this stuff you can actually see through. You see how brilliant that is, the light behind it? It's yellow sapphire. This is a pressure flaking tool, as it's notched here and here for the finger for pressure. And this poking down on stuff, you could put an edge on any harder material. This is like perfect for pressure flaking because it's corundum. It's that hard. And obviously, there's groups working with the stuff by burning and drilling to get chunks of it off. And then obviously, when the Clovis and much older, newer groups started to move in, they weren't working with the stuff. Oh, look at that one color change. Clear, light gets on it, pink. That's beautiful. But yes, some of these will be up really soon. I hope they go completely live for purchasing and everything on the Happy Lost Souls website by mid-March. And I really just hope if you're into the stuff and you want to see something on there, the whole premise of it is they're one-of-a-kinds. If I sell a shirt or a hoodie, or it's going to be a one-of-a-kind piece, kind of like art. So some of my art will be on there. Some of the rocks will be on there. Some raw sapphire, some garnets and things like that we found rock hounding. But anyways, like I said, all of those proceeds will be donated back into the watershed system and into funding continual research on this project. But if you find any of this stuff interesting, awesome. I also want to give a quick shout out. I was over at the trailhead off of Davisville Road at the end of Pennypack Road, and I was thinking about walking, going on the trail, but it was getting kind of late, and I had some stuff going on. This guy approached me and shouted out my channel because I have a little decal back in my car that he says "Happy Lost Souls," and I just want to say awesome. I'm sorry I was kind of short with it, didn't have a lot of time, and no one has ever done that. That was the first time that's ever happened, and if that's you and you're watching, just post a comment, let me know who you are. Thank you very much for your support, and I wanted to shout out back to you. But yeah, very, very cool. You never know what you'll find in a gravel bar. There's gold, silver, platinum, lead, all kinds of minerals. You won't get a lot of emeraldization, you won't get a lot of green rock. You get a lot of blue, purples, color-changing stones. It's from titanium, vanadium. You get these ones that are matrixed out that have different sapphires in them, inclusions in them. You want to look out for things like this. These are more sapphires over here. These are giant blue sapphire right there. Color changes, and it's got yellow skinning over the actual blue, so you get this greenish color. And then when the right light is on it, it takes on like a purple to a dark blue to a light blue. It's just beautiful, and it's massive. It's like 1,000 carats or more. It's massive. But this is something we call gem barring. And you start seeing this if there's rubies or sapphires in the area. Now, I'm mistaking this for mercury at first, but then I found it in, different materials here. So you have this red gem bar running through here and running through here, and it'll loop all the way around to the other side. And you'll see that gem bar right there. That's a ruby. It is a rubification, but it's a ruby forming, and you can see it's like here and here inside of another rock, inside of this schist, this shale. This is a shale, more of a shale material here. And then right here you see it, and this is probably a really, really rough sapphire with red starring in it, with this gem bar running through, or it could be shale, or another material that it's running in. So very cool to find that gem bar. You can actually see the crystal cleavage now. See this triangle right here that's forming? So this is actually a sapphire itself with a red ruby band running through it. It's kind of the opposite of this giant corundum here that is dark reddish pigeon blood with this blue sapphire streak running through it right here, looping around back to the back. Obviously you can really see it on the back there. This massive corundum, which weighs, I want to say, maybe 6-7 pounds, that stone. So massive red ruby, and still trying to keep that corundum shape along the side and the back. This may have been worked even by somebody. I don't know. It doesn't look like it, though. There's a lot of rough stuff that's not cleaned up yet, but some of these stones will be for sale at some point, and you can have a one-of-a-kind. Now, the ones that go up uncertified, they've just been examined and tested by me and looked at by like jewelers that don't have IGA certifications. Those will be sold like way undervalued. You could get like a stone for $50, $60. It might end up be worth in $2-3 grand. You just never know, or more. Some of them go for hundreds of thousands. They're the right color, like these crazy new colors we're finding. But anyway, just awesome stuff. And thank you all so much for your support. And please subscribe and be happy, be lost. Love you all.